Our guest speaker for the night, rap legend, one half of the duo Run the Jewels, and he's also a very outspoken political activist in the realms of social justice, race relations, and politics. Everyone, please put your hands together, make some noise for Killer Mike.
How y'all doing? All right, I'm not here to tell you how to lose weight. I'm not here because I have all the answers. I'm here because I believe you do. I'm here to encourage your subtle distrust of old people. That's warranted. I'm quickly about to join their club. Don't trust me either. I'm 40 years old. I have been a parent for 22 years. I've been a parent for longer than I've been, just a regular human being at this point. And 22 years ago is significant to me for a lot of reasons. 22 years ago, I was just coming into adulthood. I was a young organizer with dreams of being an activist. So for those who didn't know, I was actually an organizer before I was a rapper, with dreams of being a rapper. I was an organizer first. I organized with a group called Kids for Change. We co-organized with the Atlanta Police Commission on Children and Youth, and we, like the rappers say, got it out the mud. We were a bunch of kids from in and around Atlanta from various economic backgrounds, and we organized on behalf of kids. We were much like the Brazilian rise, the Brazilian youth movement. There was a youth movement in Brazil 20 years ago that essentially got constitutional rights for kids because kids were being murdered by police and death squads were being used. We weren't being murdered, but the police were doing a grand old time of kicking our ass in Atlanta. And we started organizing around it. It was transit cops, much like the ones that killed Oscar Grant in Northern California. We organized around it and we managed to get kids to have a voice, and we brought a subtle truce, a real truce actually between cops and kids there. So I'm very proud that's one of my accomplishments before I was ever a rapper or rapped about shit I was angry with. I got out in the streets and I did something about it. And that's another reason I'm here tonight, because I believe that you guys are of an age and of a mindset where talking is not enough. You guys are willing to get out and get it. And I know a lot of people, your parents mostly, are afraid. I'm afraid for my 22-year-old. I'm afraid for my 18-year-old daughter, who's a little too much like me, talks back and is condescending as an art form to her when talking to adults. I'm nervous, as she goes out into the world and has to interact with people who hold power over her. I'm nervous about her interactions at college. So, the way that I get over that is to constantly surround myself with people like you. People who are of their age and their mind state to remind me that I don't know everything. I know the process that brought me here, but if I'm really true to my organizational roots, I can't organize for people without organizing with them. And you guys are the pulse of what's going on today. I trust your intuition. Part of the reason I support a candidate like Bernie Sanders is less about the fact that he did something 50 years ago at the March on Washington, and more about the fact he's willing to listen to you guys 50 years later around some of the same principles. So I'm not here pitching for a candidate as much as I'm saying there are ideas and principles that you're only going to have in your youth. And I want you to exercise them now. Because what's possible from right now to the next 20 years is infinite in terms of your imagination. 22 years ago, when I entered college a freshman, I entered college without a word processor. Does anyone know what a word processor is? There are 3 other old people in the room. Hello, how you doing? Would you like to tell them what a word processor is?
You write papers on it. That's it. We'll screen this. Looks big. It's got a typewriter keyboard.
Yep. So before there were laptops and computers and you could do a research paper in your goddamn cell phone, you had to pray that you had a middle-class friend whose mom had bought them a word processor, or your mom worked for a rich white lady who gave her a word processor, and you would be able to have a word processor in college. Now that's 22 short years ago. The world was radically different. My daughter, my youngest daughter, is 8 years old. My youngest daughter only knows a black president. She does not know a United States of America absent a black man at the helm. Why is that significant? When I was 8-year-old, I thought the most impossible thing that could possibly occur was a black president. I was 8 and his name was Ronald Reagan. Reagan pretty much let us know that shit ain't happening, my nigga. But in my lifetime, because I had the audacity to organize, to fight, and to get it out the mud, I saw a president like Barack Obama elected. Now, whether we agree with all his politics or whether I've loved everything he's done, I love that in my lifetime, before I was an old man with gray hair, that I got to see my grandmother's dream realized. And that was a dream for, even if it was in that moment in time, Americans finally set aside race and said, let us do something that we feel will unify us all. That's something my grandfather never thought possible. He just thought the people that ran this country were batshit crazy. And most days I agree with him. I think that you guys, in the next 20 years, can dramatically change the country I live in. And I'm here tonight not to tell you what to do, but to encourage you to think totally outside the box. I'm here to encourage every radical, wild, imaginative thought that you may have. Because I'm here to tell you that 50 years ago, your grandparents weren't allowed to congregate together. 100 years ago, this country was even more separate. This country was even more oppressive to all poor people. This country was something that we only hear about in horror stories where children were worked for pennies on a dollar, families were separated, robber barons used their corporation to essentially slave a constituency to build railroads, to create lumber and timber, to create the cotton industry in the South. That was only a short 100 years ago. Some of us have grandparents that are approaching 100 years old, or great-grandparents. So, I'm saying this to say that what you can do for this country in the next 5, 10, 15 years is only bound by what you're willing to accept. If you're willing to accept political candidates who tell you no, hold on, wait, no progress is going to happen. If you're willing to accept an academic environment that tells you knowledge is only for people of a privileged class and it is to be kept on this campus and not shared with children off this campus, then you're supporting a structure that's going to keep children poor. Because what keeps children poor in this country is the lack of the lack of education, which keeps them locked into an endless cycle of classes of the lower class. And if you as college students don't leave this campus to interact with kids who do not look like you, who are not from your socioeconomic background, up or down, who are not from your cultural background, no matter how brown, how light, if you don't interact with people who are not like you, then we're going to stay where we are in this country. A polarized group of people arguing over bullshit while the people who hold power over us all manipulate our lives. There is no way I can be pro-African American rights and not be pro-women's rights. There is no way. There is no way I can be pro-women's rights if I'm not pro-rights for gays and lesbians. I don't care what your quirk, what your fetish, what your cultural background is. I don't care about any of that. I care that as a human being, you get to live your short 70, 80, 90, 100 years here unaffected or unintruded by laws that are invasive or obstructive to you and your natural pursuit of happiness and joy and justice. I'm interested in making sure that I, as an advocate for my rights, am also advocating for others. I'm about to say one that's pretty unpopular. I am a fierce First Amendment supporter. I believe you should be able to say things that are hard, that you agree with some, and things that are others. I got a call from a friend of mine a couple weeks ago. His name is T.I. That's right, you wake up at 8 in the morning like, hey, I just got off the plane from South Africa. What you doing? You want to go have breakfast? Like, cool, my nigga, you buying? But he was like, man, there's a KKK rally going on in Stone Mountain. That's where, just Google Stone Mountain sometimes. And he was like, what are we going to do about it? I was like, nothing. We're going to do nothing about it. What are you talking about? It's their right. And actually, I encourage it. I'd rather my racists be out in the open, kind of like a bad Trump toupee. than to have them hidden behind black robes. Those are the races I'm afraid of. I said, Tip, if I don't defend their right to say whatever they want to say, then that impedes my right to say what I want to say. So as a defender of the First Amendment, sometimes it puts me in a room with people I don't necessarily agree with. You know, puts me in a room with people I think are actually stupid. I don't see how you can want to subjugate blacks to slavery, yet you're wearing their Jordans and a Klan robe. You know, it's weird as hell. You have to want for others what you want for yourself. And I'm talking right now to white people. You know, a lot of my white fans, a lot of my white friends, a lot of white constituency politically in terms of people I've dealt with, you guys know it's fucked up for other people. And the easiest way to tell is, how many white people in the room? Raise your hand. I learned from Jane Elliott. How many white people will gladly trade places with black people for a week? One. I bet you just like rap music a lot. It's hard being black, man, and this is not, hey, feel sorry for me. This is like, yo, man, I get tired of being scared of cops. It's fucking irritating. I get tired of being presumed to be angry. You know, I have every right to be, but I'm fighting daily not to be. You know, I have every right to say, you know, when black male unemployment is 17%, everybody just shrugs like that's the way it's supposed to be. That's a problem for me. But the problem doesn't get solved without a coalition of people who don't look exactly like me. That's the way this country works. I've learned that. One radical group can push the limit as long as they want. But until we diversify that radical group, change rarely happens in this country. The women's suffrage movement was ignited because black men earned the right to vote. Post-slavery, black men got the opportunity to vote. Black women stood outside of churches with guns to make sure that no one interfered with their right. The women's suffrage movement said, now that the needle has been moved, the needle needs to be moved further. We don't have to keep doing it that way. We don't have to wait for one group to prosper and the next group hop. It's time that we say enough is really enough, and it's all or nothing right now. I'm going to enjoy my full rights, and everyone around me is, or we're going to burn this shit to the ground. It doesn't work another way. We can wait another 100 years to get a fair minimum wage, to get universal health care, because we waited 100 years. Eugene Debs and Lucy Parsons was fighting for this 100 years ago. If you guys are 20 years old, that's 5 of years ago. We don't have to keep waiting. We can change this country now, and I don't mean by who we elect. Like, God forbid, I want Sanders to win, but if Sanders doesn't win, a constituency that's on fire in this country could demand immediate change right now. The Civil Rights, the Voters' Rights Act that was gutted can be restored right now. Full rights for gay and lesbians could be federally just wiped across the board, and you can convince these states to get off their bullshit. These bullshit abortion laws that are popping back up. Women could control their bodies right now if men stood with them instead of their bodies. So whether you agree with it or not, I want to keep my rights. And if making sure that you have yours ensures that I have mine, then that's something I'm willing to fight for. I am tired of you agreeing to be separated by political party, by religious background, by cultural differences. Because the minute you stop agreeing to pick teams that you weren't alive to make, the minute you do that, real change happens. The minute you decide that I am not only a man, Asian, a woman, white, a man, black, straight, a woman, black, lesbian. The minute you decide that I'm a full human being, and I don't have to become my political advocacy everywhere I go, you learn to be open to interactions with other human beings who are not like you. I have learned the most from my relationships with people that were not like me. I've learned how to organize by a white, formerly Catholic woman from North Chicago. You would have thought I learned how to organize from other black people, but I didn't. I learned how to be a better organizer after meeting the people that taught her to organize, and they were black people. You know, she was taught to organize by people like Jean Charles Young, who was the wife of Andrew Young, who was the U.S. ambassador and lieutenant to Dr. King. Alice Johnson was my mentor. She was taught to organize by Reverend James Orange, who was a person who was in the movie Selma. And she taught me that you have to not, I know we lost a lot of time, and I want you guys to be able to ask questions should you like to. But I was saying, after, you know, being an organizer is hard. You guys organize in here, organizers, activists at all? Or people who just give a damn? Giving a damn is hard because you meet a lot more defeats than you do victories. And I honestly think the reason we all have been meeting our individual and kind of small group defeats is collectively we're not cross-pollinating and work together. I don't think this country can be what it's supposed to be until you see Occupy Wall Street, Black Lives Matter, and other coalitions fighting at the exact same time, at the exact same place. Because they're fighting the exact same oppressors. And that's no bullshit. I'm going to say, make sure that post this talk, you have a friend who doesn't look like you. Make sure you build a relationship with someone who is not from your socioeconomic background. And Americans, I would challenge all of you guys to find a Muslim friend. Black Americans can help you. The African American community, for some reason, seems to be one of the few communities where Muslims and Christians coexist pretty peacefully. Except for when your uncle starts talking the Quran or at your aunt's Thanksgiving dinner. It doesn't go over so well because your aunt made the beans with pork. But I mean that, and I say it in jest, but my community can provide a fine example for what Christians and Muslims can coexist like. So white people, get some friends who don't look like you. Americans, get some friends who ain't from America. Men, find a way to advocate on the behalf of the women that you care about. Women, advocate and help men grow to become advocates. A lot of us just don't know. Because the system that oppresses you teaches us we're a notch up, therefore we find comfort in it, just like racism. And the only way that happens is if the people who come from the abused or the oppressed class disabuse the people in power of their bullshit notions. So keep challenging your boyfriends, your uncles, and your dads. My 18-year-old daughter does daily to me. Make sure post this talk, we're communicating and then organizing with people who don't look like us. Make sure we're organizing with people who are not from our religious background, and make sure we're having social discussions with people who don't agree with us. I am a fierce gun rights advocate. The only way you will get me to give up my gun is out of my cold dead hand and it being handcuffed to my cold dead hand. Michael, you seem like a rational person. Why would you do that? Well, the government still kills people who look like me. So as a black man in this country, it makes every goddamn sense in the world not to like guns. So I'm never going to come off that. But that is not going to stop me from being an active part of your organization if you want violence to go down in your community. I will be standing right there next to you. I might not agree with the gun buyback, but I'll damn sure lead the class that shows young mothers who own guns how to safely store their guns so their children don't get in and kill themselves. I will gladly be an advocate for laws, for sensible gun laws, with you. And I'm a fierce gun advocate. I fish, I hunt, I kill shit, I eat it. You know? I've been doing vegan things once a week. Shouts out to Russell Simmons and that lame shit he on. Talking about the endorsing Hillary, not the vegan stuff. I actually kind of like that. It's been working for me. Lost 4 pounds. I got a long way to go. I'm going to wrap up. I would have said a lot more, but I don't think I need to. I think young people get it. I think you guys get it by the politics that I see you guys choosing to engage in. I think you guys get it because when I go to my concerts, I see a plethora of people from different backgrounds. I think you get it because the conversations that I'm starting to hear publicly are not reflective of the agendas that political parties are giving you. I think you get it, and I think you get it because you're courageous enough to challenge one another. I want to challenge you to push it a step further, and I want you to accelerate the timeline. I don't want to have to wait 30, 2 years of my life for another black president, or woman president, or Latino president, or Asian president, or native-born president. I don't want to wait or to keep celebrating women being appointed to the Supreme Court, because it's not celebratory that women are as smart as men, as capable as men. My lawyer is made for a better lawyer than most men. Thank God for Monica Ewing and Aaron. So I think that we need to get past the, wow, we got one. And it needs to be just practical thinking. That, yeah, half of the politicians in our country are women, because half of the country is women. You get what I'm saying? Does that make sense to anyone? Yeah. I mean, I don't like Hillary Clinton, but I do love the idea of a woman president. I don't not like her because she's a woman. I think they're better qualified women. I'm looking forward to a presidential race where it's just all women. Because it's feasible if we think it is. I'm tired of seeing men control politics in this country. I'm tired of seeing white political class families control this country. I wish to see the proletariat and the grassroots in this country produce the next leadership. I don't give a damn what color or sex the president is next, as much as I care that this president has experienced poverty in their lifetime.
Go Bernie!
Only candidate that's not a millionaire. I need to know that the president knows what it's like to have to eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, not because you like it, because you're fucking broke. You get what I'm saying? Is that resonate? I would like a president who talks about foreign policy whose parents were immigrants. Does that make sense to you? You know, I'd like for a president that talks about race relations in this country to have actually marched and could potentially got his ass kicked by cops. Whoever's next, require more of them. Whoever is next, require that they're more like you. We should be done electing people we think are better. We should be done electing people we think are smarter, because they keep making the same stupid decisions. If you're so smart, you never would have had a housing crash. If you're so brilliant, and the people that run banks, they never would have needed our money to bail them out. You get what I'm saying? So I'm about to step off my soapbox and let you guys engage me with some cool questions, I hope. But I'm going to simply say, enough is enough. You don't have to wait for change. Hope ain't shit without work. Prayer without action is in vain. Take your ass out in the streets. Campaign for whoever you want to campaign for. And no matter who wins this next election, demand more. And demand change in the immediate. You don't have to wait 4 more years for anything. You can have full rights and actions now if you're demanding it. My name is Michael Render, Killer Mike, one half of Run the Jewels. And I'd like to thank you guys for allowing me to communicate.
Could you kick us a little freestyle?
No.
Could I give you the beat?
I knew somebody was going to do that shit. Look, let me tell you something. Because I think you're a cute kid and I like the way you tie your sweater and do get you around your waist. I'm an old man and I rap for a living. That freestyle shit's out the door. I do this for money. If you got money, I will rap my black ass off. Average Run the Jewels price of the show of $150,000. Let me know what you want to do there. Word. Thank you, I was a cute 10. If you were 5, maybe I would.
Hello?
Hey, how are you?
Can you hear me on this, or?
I can't hear you, but I like your shirt.
Do I need it, or? Just okay, I don't. still unsure whether I'm going to vote for Bernie or Hillary. And I think one of the main reasons is because I think one of the main reasons why I have that uncertainty is because I agree with everything that Bernie says and all of his stances, and he wants change immediately, compared to Hillary, who wants more of progressive change, like over time.
Yeah.
And one of my biggest worries, I guess, is that although I want change immediately, other political parties won't allow that to happen.
Is that what we know, or is that what you're being told?
It's what we know in the sense that, like, for example, Obama with Obamacare, like, he wanted to do so much more with it, and it would have been so much more beneficial, but political parties kind of didn't allow it, at least at that upper level.
Well, that's the narrative we were told. I look at the narrative a little differently. I think that we didn't go back and vote in the midterms. I think that we allowed the Tea Party to sneak members in there.
Yeah.
I think that our president could have done a better job at building a coalition to go in the room with him and negotiate a coalition that was reflective of normal, regular people and not career politicians. Someone who I like Nancy Pelosi. I took a picture with her down at the airport, but she shouldn't have been the other person that was talking. You know, should have been somebody like a Warren. You know, should have been somebody like a Bernie Sanders that was talking. He should have went and got a different coalition of people. You know, so I think that a lot of times, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think a lot of times what we deem politically impossible is a narrative that we get from the television news that sits on the site. Because I was born in 1975. Before 1970, when was Roe vs. Wade? 1973? And I know that because my grandmother always reminded me that I should love my mother because she didn't have an abortion. Like, she literally would say that, like, your mother could have had an abortion. And I never really knew how significant that was, because prior to 73, that didn't happen outside. That happened illegally. It happened in places where women died. It happened in back rooms. You know what I mean? So immediately, that change happened once the decision was made. You know, they said after slavery, it was like, you know, this slavery thing, let's work them back into it. But Reconstruction brought change immediately. Immediately, blacks had already had trades because they had been enslaved. They immediately built communities. They immediately became a part of America in a different way. And that was repelled by Jim Crow, but it happened with immediacy because the people were ready. You know, there's a thing in martial arts that says when the teacher is ready, when the student is ready, the teacher will teach. But it's not going to happen if you guys are not audacious enough to stand up and say, no, it changes right now. You know, it doesn't have to change. I heard the president use an analogy once that change kind of happens like a cruise ship. You know, like a big liner, like you have to do a real long turn just to get the slowest progression of change, right? Well, there's another way this ship works. You can have a captain of a ship who knows that there's ice in the water around this time of year, and this is the goddamn Titanic. Slow down and go the other way. You know what I mean? So not to be too talkative, but that's what I hope whoever you vote for, that you stay active in your community and you demand more politicians than they currently do.
Your answer really helped. Also, I brought my copy of RTJ too. Could you sign it up?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I'll stay after the sign up.
Thank you.
There be any more questions? Hey, how you doing? Don't ask me to rap.
Reagan was probably one of the coolest music videos I've seen in like a long time.
Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of the things that you say in the video though could be easily written off as like, can be easily dismissed as like a conspiracy theory.
What is? Now, there is something that can be dismissed because it is a conspiracy theory, but speak to the other part.
No, yeah, no, I'm just saying, just like a normal person who's not really too aware of like how the country works, they would look at that and think that it was not real or that it was outlandish.
Well, let's think about it. Okay, with Reagan, I don't know if you've heard it, but Reagan is a song where and look, hold up, check me out, you're gonna get a rap, look. God is on your side. I said the battle of the bullets, some freedom or some bullshit. Will we ever do it big or just keep settling for little shit? We brag on having bread, but none of us are bakers. We all talk having grains, but none of us own acres. If none of us own acres and none of us grow wheat, then who will feed our people when our people need to eat? So it seems our people starve from lack of understanding, because all we seem to give them is some balling and some dancing, and some talking about our car and imaginary mansions. We should be indicted for bullshit we excited, selling children death and pretending it's exciting. We are advertisements for, what did I say? We are advertisements for what agony and pain. We exploit the youth, we tell them to join a gang. We tell them dope stories, introduce them to the gang. Just like Oliver North introduced to cocaine in the 80s when the bricks came on military planes. So people will hear that and they will say, but if you read Dark Alliance by Gary Webb, and if you look at the fact that Oliver North did indeed serve jail time, and Bill Clinton later went on to pardon people involved in Iran-Contra, and if you know about Iran-Contra, you know that somebody in this country turned their back as drugs and arms danced across the border, and violence proliferated through the 80s and 90s. So when people say conspiracy theory, I say theory proven. And next one, when I say I talk about being a 12-year-old boy in the second verse, when the height of the drug era kicks in and the police turning into essentially a group that hunted black boys, Still. That's not a conspiracy theory. You can see that every single day. I live in North Fulton County. I have never went through a roadblock going home in my life. My wife and I are planning to move back into South Fulton County. Predominantly African-American community, many millionaires. They get roadblocks twice a month. Why are you roadblocking a street that an African-American millionaire goes down? So that's not a conspiracy. That's the cops. Cops target black people, and in the end, when I say essentially, just like the Bushes, Clinton, and Obama, our presidents are not dictators or kings or monarchs. They don't work just with their interests or even our interests. I think that there are global interests at play. I think that there's too much money in politics. And I was willing to criticize the president that I like a lot, as well as the presidents I didn't like so much, because I'm not criticizing that person, I'm criticizing the office. The office of President of the United States of America is a noble office, and it has the ability to affect world policy in a much different way than other leaders in this world. And I think that that has a higher social responsibility. I think if you're going to be the leader and the police and the biggest army in the world, you also should practice compassionate capitalism. You also should make sure that you have a Secretary of State who doesn't repeal a 30-cent pay increase for Haitian workers and have it cut in half to 31 cents from 62 cents. I think that you have a responsibility to the globe, that you have an empire sitting in the middle of, So if people can call that conspiracy theory, fine with me. That's fine. I'll be a conspiracy theorist. But I know slavery wasn't a theory. I know the Vietnam War wasn't a theory. I know that the current exploitation of immigrants isn't a theory. So I would just say when people say that, argue like fuck with them, piss them off, and turn my music up loud.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. That was just the first part of my question.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, you kind of answered, but if you have any conspiracy theory that is your favorite, or that you...
My favorite conspiracy theory? Oh man, my favorite conspiracy theory. I don't know. I've been hearing from it's hard being a black guy. I'm gonna be very honest with y'all, because we get hammered bad, right? And then racism puts the people who are victimized by it in the position of you're always on the defense. So a lot of my brothers and sisters that fight on the behalf of black people, they have to always be on the defense because they get it from all sides. They get it from white media. They get it from white conservative media like Fox. Then they got, you gotta watch Don Lemon on CNN. That's damn, you know what I mean? You get it from Brother Don, and it's like, man. And then you get it, and you try to just, use some rationale, say you got a point. Then your brothers and sisters who want to fight with you, they'll get at you too. So for me, the biggest conspiracy that has been funny to me is that somehow I joined forces with LP, and that is to temper that is supposed to temper my willingness to be a black liberator of some sort. And because I run the Jewels is successful, I have abandoned the plight of black people. And I was like, does this motherfucker not hear any of Run the Jewels? All I rapped about was stuff that was relevant to the black people that year, whether it was crime, and my former dealings in drugs, or whether it was about police brutality and things. I was like, that's all I rap about. Now, I do think that the message has been enhanced by dope ass beats. I I do know that the fact that, one of my best friends in the world is a white guy from Brooklyn, who's used to black people helps he and I understand the world from a different perspective. Me being a southerner, him being a northerner, I've grown because of my friendship with someone that's non-black. I didn't look, I don't have a savior that came out the sky. I was like, I am bestowed RTJ. It's just two friends who liked each other. They decided to make dope music. So when I hear it from that side, from my Pan-Africanist community, it's kind of hurtful because, man, I love all people. But I am in love with black people. I've never just, black people got it hard, man. And the way that they still believe and love in spite of, I think is truly inspiring. I just got to be honest. If black people inspire the shit out of me. So when I hear those kind of conspiracies, I laugh and I chuckle. They hurt a little, you know what I'm saying? Because the same guys will come back to me 3 months later when I do something that they think is overtly pro-black and be like, well, sorry, bro, for calling you a sellout. And I'll be like, all right, I got called Steven from the Django by a high school guy. He didn't like me very much because I had his girlfriend a couple times. But not in a bad way, we just hung out. And yeah, when I ain't gonna lie, when I saw that, I just laughed. My wife laughed at me, like, ah! So, yeah, I don't, the conspiracy that somehow Run the Jewels is here to subvert Killer Mike as a black nationalist is pretty funny. That's about the only one.
Awesome. I just want to thank you again for that video. It definitely made me feel a lot less crazy about the way I see the world.
You're not crazy. You're not crazy. The people who run the world are, but you're not.
So you said you're in favor of sensible gun laws. So after the San Bernardino shooting and what's happening in Chicago where the murder rate is through the roof, how do you think you can combat that by putting sensible...
How do you combat Chicago and the murder rate being through the roof?
Well, just all the hoods and everywhere, just the gun problem in America completely. How do you...
Well, I'm from the southern United States.
What are sensible gun laws to you?
What are sensible gun laws to me? I don't think you should necessarily have to serve in the military, but I like the fact that because young people in the military in Israel have to serve in the military, they know how to use a gun. I want my daughters to know how to use a gun. I want my sons to know how to use a gun. That's just practicality for me. Now, if you don't choose to own one, you don't have to. But I think you should have to train. I think you should be required to shoot at least 2 hours a month. I think you should be trained to shoot a handgun and a rifle. Sensible gun laws to me are the end of the problem, to me. I think that when you point to places like Chicago, what you're pointing to is not a gun or violence problem, it's a poverty and joblessness problem. If Chicago had an actual jobs program and you didn't have over 51% youth unemployment, over 60 to 70% in terms of young African American men, you wouldn't have a problem. If I could afford to feed my family, I wouldn't be loitering in the streets. I'd be off feeding my family. If I could afford to be a part, or if I was a part of the actual labor force, I wouldn't have to seek desperate measures to make money. Now, I hate that there is a violence epidemic in Chicago, but Chicago and New York have some of the toughest gun laws in the nation. I come from one of the places with one of the most relaxed gun laws in the nation. That's not to say Atlanta's great, but I'm in the northern suburb now. It's not as violent as the city of Atlanta. But again, even in the city of Atlanta, over 50% young people unemployment. If gun owners simply took their guns and when you locked your gun up at night, say people were breaking in houses, stealing guns. If you simply put a master lock behind the trigger of your gun, you render that gun useless. So a lot of what's going on with guns is less about the actual gun being the problem. It's about, I have people owning guns who don't know how to use them. I have people owning guns who don't know how to store them. I have young men from a community, no one is outraged. Think about that. I just told you that African American male unemployment is 17%, and no one blinks. As black men, we're used to the shit. It just hurts us to say it. It's just like a numb, aching pain. But who's out fighting for jobs for black people in Chicago? Besides Chewy, who ran for mayor, who lost to Ron, and besides, say, a wine fest at Donda's house. You get what I'm saying? I'm from a part of the country where the gun is as needed as, I told someone, I said, let me tell you what's sensitive. I said, this is how I test a gun owner and said they need a gun for outside stuff. If you gave me an option, if you came to me and said, I have a hatchet and I have a gun for you, you have to be left in the woods for 3 days. You know which tool I'm gonna pick? Anybody camps in here? I'm gonna pick the hatchet. Because with the hatchet I can cut shelter, I can build shelter, I can dig up roots. But if you give me the supreme choice, I want to take the hatchet and the gun. So if I tell you a gun is a tool, believe me. Because if you give me an option of which tool is the best and you threaten to leave me in the woods for 3 days, I'm going to pick the tool that doesn't go bang bang, but that goes chop chop, because it's going to do the most stuff. But I wouldn't want to be stuck in the wilderness without the ability to have a gun. But if I have to be, I'd have a hatchet. So for me, the gun is a tool. I view it like that. I think most gun owners do. I think young people in this country have a fascination with guns because they have more experiences with movies than with firearms. But for that, I encourage people who are gun owners, take your friends shooting. Your friends that are steadfast to get guns, take their ass to the shooting range, put a gun in their hand, and instruct them on how to handle a firearm. Shoot, what's expensive? Bullets. No, bullets are cheap. When you go to the shooting range, they recap bullets. You can buy a bucket of cheap bullets. And when you go out to a gun, if you ever go out to a, what do they call those gun fairs? When you go out to protest the straw buyers, buy you a bunch of bullets while you're out there. They're cheap too. But get immersed in the culture. Go to the cultures that you don't agree with and meet people. You can meet some responsible gun owners out there. And I agree with you. We definitely need to do something about Chicago. We definitely need to do something about New York. I just don't know if taking everyone's gun does that. Because criminals are not going to give up their guns. You know, all my homeboys that have criminal records that need the gun, they still got a gun. You know. Next question.
I'm a kind of a new fan of the Jules. I'm a really huge fan of like conscious hip hop, like Black Star, Mos Def, and all those rappers.
Yes, sir.
I just kind of understood that for a long time was in the underground. How hard was it for you to bring your message to your music? And did you face any roadblocks or difficulties while doing that?
I've been rapping what I've been rapping forever. If you go back to Monster, if you go to the Play series, I've been rapping this for whatever reason. I was born to rap over LP beats. It made sense and it resonated in a different way with people, and I'm just thankful. You know, I have been so busy fighting to go forward in my career, I have not stopped to pause to wonder. You know, what I do know is, unlike any other musical genre, rappers, when given an opportunity, say something politically engaged and socially active. Like, you know, when you hear 2 Chainz say, I had to sit down with Farrakhan, turn the White House to the Terror Dome, that don't mean something to the average person who's listening. But I was at the meeting with him and Farrakhan. And you know, Farrakhan was like, hey man, y'all can't keep rapping about this bullshit. You know, y'all need to rap about some stuff that uplift people too. And Young Thug was there. And next thing you know, I heard Young Thug say he had a meeting with Farrakhan. Now I said Farrakhan's a savior for all black rappers. What I'm saying is he sat down as an old black man in a room full of young black men and said, man, y'all need to get off that bullshit. And you need to take your opportunity to say something. Besides, I want money, I want cars, I want sex. And after that meeting, you know, look what has happened. So I am proud of rappers. I am proud of rap. You know, could we all as human beings do more to be politically engaged? Absolutely. Absolutely. How many of us are members of our local school board? How many of us have helped in a local political campaign? That's a good number, better than the last school I spoke at. So I want you guys to just, you know, the same thing we expect or we want out of rappers, let's expect out of ourselves. You know, why aren't our ministers talking about politics like they used to? I used to watch the old civil rights stuff that would come on in January, right? The black and white stuff. And you know, I'm from the South. I didn't know much about Catholicism until I met Alice, who was my mentor. She taught me about the tenements of charity and social activism and stuff associated with Catholicism. I never knew about it. I learned about the Magna Carta, Protestant church, and you're Baptist because your grandma said so, right? But I would look at those old films and I see guys in collars. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what's up with the guys in the collars? And that's how I learned. Okay, well these guys are priests. Okay, well Catholicism has a tenement of social justice, and that's what was required. So my question is for, you know, current Black Baptist preachers and other mega preachers, the Joel Osteens, these guys, why in the hell don't you have a political stance? Jesus did. Yeah, Jesus had a firm political stance. He went in a temple and kicked shit over to express it. You know? So, you know, I require out of my neighbors who don't rap the exact same thing I require out of rappers. You know, if you're in this country, you should be engaged. Because we were given a pretty good country in terms of the potential. This republic has the potential to be as great as it taunts itself to be. You know, we have to ensure that that hope remains for our children and our children's children. And that's another reason I like the old guy. He's 74 years old. He don't have much ambition. At 74, I look forward to smoking a cigar in Cuba, talking shit. You know, 74, this man is trying to radically change the world so that people he has yet to, you know, he'll be dead when these people are around. 20, 30 years from now, people will reap the benefits of that, and I applaud him. I hope that answers.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Great having you here today.
I like the t-shirt.
Thank you very much. I only fuck with that music.
Thank you.
Anyways, rap music, your album Rap Music really got me into politics, especially reggae. One of them actually mentioned it already. But that, like, ever since I saw that video, like, I was also like one of those people that would think like, oh, this guy's a conspiracy theorist. So I started looking things up, and then I realized, oh, this is actually some of this stuff I never learned about at all. So my question tonight is, since we're talking about reggae at this moment right now, what's your point of view about the private prison industry?
Private prison is slavery. It's that simple. Prison is slavery. What's the 13th Amendment? 13th Amendment abolishes slavery except in matters of prison. All right, think about that. Think about it. Before you get to private prisons, before you step foot to the thought of private prisons, slavery in this country is illegal except for prison. So we've grown up our entire life quietly accepting state-sponsored slavery. Think about it. Right now, the what's the union? The International Workers Work. It's the IWW. I think they call it WABI. It was basically prisoners have joined this union and are right now striking in U.S. prisons. They're refusing to be cheap labor and slave labor for countries. And I can say I stand in solidarity with that because I represent a community of people that are 5 to 7 times more likely to go to jail for nonviolent drug offenses. That nonviolent drug offense gets you an exorbitant, speaking of Clinton's crime bill, 100 to 1. So for 5, grams of crack cocaine, you can get as much time as someone with half a kilo of cocaine. 5 grams is about this much crack cocaine. A half a kilo is 500 grams. So for 5 grams, I talked to a friend of mine who, well, actually someone who people like me and Tip rapped about and look up to. He did time. He did federal time. He said, yeah, I did time. I was guilty. I had a 27 kilo conspiracy charge. Did my time. He said, but the thing that pained me about being in jail was I was in jail with so many young men who weren't supposed to be in federal prison. They had never seen a kilo in their life. They were in jail serving 10, 20, 30, 40-year sentences for ounces of crack. Only because it wasn't cocaine. And crack comes from cocaine. Cocaine is the Dr. Frankenstein that creates that Frankenstein. So for me, we are allowing slavery in this country. And the only political candidate I've ever heard talk about redeeming the prisoner was Sanders. He literally said, if I'm elected, I will make sure our prison population finally falls below places like Russia and China. I'll make sure our prison population, instead of becoming one that's strictly for punitive purposes and in effect slavery, will become where we actually rehabilitate people. So we're putting out functioning humans on the other side. So I think that if you like Angela Davis as a romantic figure, as a Black Panther, you should be following Angela Davis right now as she fights for social justice and prison reform. This country should finally end slavery for real. And to end slavery for real, we have to stand in solidarity with the prisoner and say that we will not allow state-sponsored slavery. If you commit a crime, yes, you should pay for that crime. Yes, you should. Yeah, absolutely you should. Should you become a slave because in an environment where you were 5 times as likely to be unemployed, you chose to sell drugs? Should you be a slave for a nonviolent drug offense? Absolutely not. Absolutely you shouldn't be. Should you risk peril, violence, sexual assault? Because poverty put you in a position where you had to make a hard decision. The educational system in this country failed you. Should you then, at the end of all that, your reward be slavery? Absolutely not. So I would like for us in our outrage and speaking against privatization of prisons to be as adamant that we want to see state and federal prisons change. If you go into prison and you come out of prison without a degree, without a diploma, without a trade, without a skill, then as a society, we have failed you.
Just another quick comment.
Yes, sir.
Were you aware that the University of California had $30 million worth in the private prison industry?
I did not. I was not aware of that. I was absolutely not.
So in essence, I'm hearing, University of California paying for my tuition, paying for the incarceration of my brothers and sisters back home.
Absolutely.
So I think that's really whole.
So you guys did divest? You guys, please keep raising hell about it. If that's true, please keep raising hell. Please keep raising hell. I have to make some hard decisions in terms of investment. My wife is the money person in our household. My wife's from the project, so she's hardcore like a juvenile song. There's certain companies she won't associate with in terms of our money. So I can't fix every problem now. You can be loud about it, and you can cause further divestment of funds. And I absolutely hope and I will support you too.
Thank you very much.
The Inland Empire actually has like one of the worst youth voter turnouts in the country.
Yes, sir.
How do we actually mobilize it? I can tell people every day to go vote for Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
You and I both know that doesn't equate to.
Well, where's your T-shirt? No. I mean everybody who's wearing a T-shirt, stand up. Okay, so there's 3 people. Those 3 people are going to be seen by 3 other people. I see him in the middle of the mall. Oh, with you, bro. I'm going to go put on my T-shirt. I'm going to call my circle of friends. I'm going to aggravate the shit out of him. I'm going to find out who's rallying and actually organizing. See, man, it doesn't happen easy. It's like when you fall in love. And the first couple weeks or months are just beautiful at the idea, and then it gets hard. Organizing and making people aware is not easy, but it is necessary. When you say how you're a handsome, tall white man, put on that goddamn T-shirt. Stand next to a group of people who you know or don't look like you, hold that goddamn Bernie sign. You young, handsome Republican haircut looking devil. You let other people know who look like you and don't look like you. It's okay to vote for them. You encourage me. And I know you can do that. You've already charmed me. I may sneak out here and vote under someone else's name.
Go Mike, enjoy California.
Thank you so much. Let's go.
So then I like writing spoken word and stuff.
Yes, sir.
But then I'm half white and half Asian. And then I write about feelings and all that stuff, and I don't use curse words, I don't use the N-word, and I try to respect the art as much as I can. But then one of my friends said, well, the art really belongs to us, and then so you shouldn't perform it. So then,
you mean, so you're a rapper or a spoken word artist?
I do spoken word, but then they said that spoken word and rap, they both belong to them. I know. And so it's is respecting the art even is it enough for me to just without I don't want to say offend, but then
rap is black music. Rap is an extension of black music that started. I definitely want to acknowledge that. With that said, black music has always had people that were in the culture that weren't black. I did a thing on Reconstruction that's going to come out during the Huffington Post. When Irish immigrants first got here, there were 2 people in the United States that tap dance. There were people who were black, who had been here, who had been on plantations and things, some migrated north, and there were Irish people that got here. Now, I don't know how Africa and Ireland both were tap dancers, but we owe tap dance to those 2 groups of people. Those 2 groups of people congregated, whites came down, white Irish people came down from the north, strictly to go to plantations and to hang out and to learn musically. And there's been a fusion. It's been like that in blues, it's been like that in rock and roll, and it has been like that in rap. Rap was definitely started out of the South Bronx, out of poverty, out of pain. It was started out of promise. It was started out a little promiscuity too, depending on who the rapper was. And it was definitely started by a coalition of people of color, primarily black, but not limited to. Puerto Ricans also, poor whites also. So you are as welcome in the culture as any other person. I wouldn't say you don't have right to the culture. I would say in any culture you become a part of, respect the founders. Always say respect to the founders. And I think when you do that, you know, good shit happens. I mean, you aren't the first mixed guy to like rap. Logic's mixed and one of the rawest rappers in the fucking world, you know? Eminem is white, raw-ass rapper, you know what I mean? Chris Chong from the 2 Live Crew was the first person who I knew who was just Asian, I think he was Asian and black, rapping. So, you know, there is room for rap in us all. There is not room for people in rap who wish to enjoy the culture and then take their ass to the other side. There is not room for another Von Rubio. I don't give a fuck if you listen to the Wu-Tang Clan if you're willing to repeal my rights. That don't make you cool because you listen to Outkast, you know? So for me, if you're going to be a part of the culture and advocate for that culture, then beyond rapping and rhyming words, be an advocate for the culture. Be an advocate against things that oppress that culture and those people, and I think you'll find yourself a friend to the culture, and the culture will always be a friend to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for coming out. Let's give it up for Mike.